It's moving day, but Katie and her family have nowhere to go.
So are you going to come to the tip?
Who doesn't like a day out of the tip?
She's been made homeless. Her landlord has decided to sell, and friends have come over to help pack. For 13 years, in Weymouth on the Dorset coast, this has been her home. She's built her life in these four walls, made it her own, never once missing a rent payment. But her landlord has issued her with something known as a Section 21 no-fault eviction notice. She's got a week left to finish packing up her and her children's lives and leave. Exactly 5 weeks before Christmas.
Right, this we can't take because it's my bed for tonight. I don't know where I'm going to be.
Oh, you're shaky.
Yeah, trying to be so brave.
Katie's local council have a legal duty to house her in what's known as temporary accommodation. But these days the stay is rarely that short. Unsure of where she'll be staying next, her life has had to be put into storage, but it's expensive. And what she can't afford to keep is taken to the tip.
I don't know where I'm going to be going, but it's likely that it won't be big enough for the sofas that I had and the dining room table. So we're here to get rid of all that. It's the end of an era and something that we didn't expect to happen. Huh? It's the last bit.
A year ago, Katie was forced to leave her job. Her eldest child is autistic, and the caring demands meant work was no longer an option.
It does mean that they're coming back to an empty house and a bag of clothes that we've got ready to take to whatever emergency accommodation we end up in. And if this had happened a couple of years ago, I'd have been able to go from one private rent to another. The financial climate's changed, and therefore, the rents have gone up. And if I was to find another rental in this area, I'd have to find another £500 to £600 a month from what I was paying on this. I can't find that money.
Chaos, uncertainty, and the sheer cost of being put into temporary accommodation. Lives turned upside down.
You don't dream that you're going to end up in this situation when you have your children, when you work, you worked your whole life up until the point that it's taken out of your hands. Normal people find themselves in horrible situations, and it just so happens that I'm one of them.
In the rush towards Christmas, as much of the country prepares for a well-deserved break, people like Katie are living parallel lives. Every 8 minutes, a family like hers is served a Section 21 eviction. Families like Kylie's, removed from her home by bailiffs despite no fault of her own.
How many of these evictions are you doing every week?
8 to 10 in a day.
8 to 10 a day?
Children make up 50% of all homeless people in England. Children like Calice and Aurora, who I first met back in July. They'd already been homeless for 2 years and were living in a hotel in North London. But in October, their worst fears came true. Evicted from their 5th temporary accommodation.
For my kids to be on the street, we only have the clothes that are on our backs. We shouldn't be treated like this. We are still humans at the end of the day.
After spending all day on the streets, the council eventually found them accommodation for the night. The problem is, this stopgap from homelessness is anything but temporary. In fact, our research has uncovered more than 15,000 households across England who've been trapped in temporary accommodation for more than 5 years. For almost 3 years now, I've been covering the housing crisis. And no matter how many people I meet, how many stories we tell, they get no less shocking. In fact, some of the stories seem to belong to another century. But over the last 12 months, things really have hit crisis point. I'm in Oldham to visit The Crib, an organisation focused on helping homeless families.
Hey, Laura, how you doing?
Hi, nice to see you.
Good to see you,
Nice
okay?
to- Yeah, you.
Yeah, no, thank you for having us.
Welcome to The Crib.
Yeah.
This is our kitchen area, and
we've got washing machine.
Because often they don't have a...
So you don't have access to washing facilities in temporary accommodation often.
Right, okay.
So you can bring your washing here and get it done. You can have a cup of tea, have some toast, have some food.
Okay.
Kids can play.
Is there quite a lot of demand for this kind of thing then?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. We've been busier than we have been ever.
Every day, the team at the crib are taking calls and visiting those living in temporary accommodation, with drop-ins from people like Abiola and baby Adajari. Today, they're collecting extra nappies.
Hiya.
There'll be people who are watching this who will say they're not homeless, they have got somewhere, they've got temporary accommodation, they've got a hotel, they've got a hostel, they've got a bed sit. Some people might say, well, what is the problem with living in temporary accommodation?
Imagine living with your bags semi-packed all the time. Imagine it's someone else's decision where you're going to live and when you're going to move and how you're going to get there. We know that children living in temporary accommodation often move 4 or 5 times in 2 years before they get to something that is permanent. We've got kids here who have never, ever lived in their own home. Ever.
Go on then. Such a cheeky bit.
When you look at what kids draw and what they want, they'll often say, I want a home. And living in a one-bedroomed room with all your stuff and all your kids is not a home. It's shelter and it's out of the cold, but it's not a home. And we know that for children to thrive, they need that sense of security, that sense of love, and they need that stability. You know, I've walked into temporary accommodation that has, got the problems of mould and damp and everything else. So it's unregulated, it's not good for families. It's almost possibly the worst system you could invent to look after homeless families is what we've got.
But most shocking of all, it's recently been revealed that over the last 3 years, temporary accommodation may have played a role in the deaths of 34 children. Most of the children were under the age of 1. Dr. Nielsen believes the real number is much higher.
34 is disproportionate for the number of children living in temporary accommodation. It can't be explained as just an anomaly. It is a real sad fact.
I mean, that is one of the most tragic and disturbing things I've ever heard of, frankly. That children would die partly as a result of being homeless, and that's nothing they could have ever done. It's completely out of their control. And often out of their parents' control.
This is not a parenting issue. This is a systemised effect of poverty and insecurity on children, and it absolutely breaks families.
Just as we were leaving there, they got a phone call from a family whose baby had died while they were living in temporary accommodation. And they were ringing up to see if they could help them. Just hearing those stories, knowing that's what they're dealing with every day in Britain in the 21st century. Shocking.
Right, should we go buggy today?
Early morning in Margate, and working mum Holly is hunting for a flat for her and 18-month-old daughter Elsie. They are homeless and have spent much of the last year and a half sofa surfing. She now lives in a hostel. Today they have 2 flat viewings. How was it? How did it go?
So, not too great. Both really small, and the double room in the 2-bedroom could not even fit a bed in it. Okay. It looked more like a hallway. I feel like I've got no hope at this point.
Does that frustration also come from the fact that you just don't feel like there is going to be anywhere?
Sort of brings this fear over me that we're going to be stuck either in a shared accommodation for the rest of our lives or sofa surfing like we was before. It got to the point where I actually started crying last night. I was looking around my room and I just burst out crying. I saw my little in a travel cot still and just knew I couldn't do it anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Between childcare, her job working nights in a care home, and the sheer lack of affordable homes, today is a rare day where Holly has the time and the budget to view somewhere. Her next one is in 2 weeks' time. It means Holly is resigned to spending Christmas in temporary accommodation. A young mother stuck in a small room, sharing a kitchen and bathroom with 9 strangers.
Should we put this somewhere?
It's just so small. Just the two of you? For someone who doesn't understand what it's like living in temporary accommodation, what is it like?
So it feels like you've got no stability and feels like you're never really safe. You've basically got nowhere you can call home. You can't be happy there because you know it's not yours. It feels like I'm trapped.
Whether you live on the coast or in inner city London or a town in the north of England, there are of course unique local reasons contributing to this rise in homelessness. But wherever you are, all roads lead to the same problem. There are simply not enough affordable houses. There are not enough places for people to live. And until that problem is addressed, this crisis will continue. On the other side of the country, North Devon's long sandy beaches are a draw for holidaymakers. But this stunning landscape comes at a cost, and it's local people paying the biggest price. More and more holiday lets means fewer and fewer affordable homes to live in, and the council's housing department is the front line in this deepening crisis. Over the last 4 years, it's seen its annual spend on temporary accommodation double to £1.2 million.
You need a 2-bed. And what is it you're paying there, 825, yeah?
Oh, hi Lily, it's Aaron here, North Devon Council. Hi, is that Bernadette? Hi Marcella, it's Aaron. I had a missed call from you guys.
Aaron Street leads North Devon's homelessness and temporary accommodation service, and the phone does not stop ringing.
On one hand, there's a lot less properties about. People started renting out to Airbnb. COVID hit, that market went through the roof. Prices went up, interest rates went up. They've had to sell their houses. So a lot of people came into our service because they were being made homeless because the landlord was having to sell the property. And then, of course, you've got the cost increase of the rental market as well. So it's not just that the property's not available anymore, but it's not available to our clients because it's unaffordable. Less properties, less landlords, higher rents. You're looking at 50 to 70% less properties available in the private rented market. So you get people stuck. They've got nowhere to go. They'll come into our service. There might be some properties available, but are not affordable for them to go into. So it's pointless us trying to get them into a tenancy that they can't afford to maintain. It's not affordable to live anymore. When you look at it like that, it is pretty dire.
Councils across the UK are spending more than £1.7 billion on temporary accommodation, and that's gone up by more than £150 million in the last year alone. Councils are now regularly spending up to a third of their budget on temporary housing.
In my view, anyway, it's a ticking time bomb. I think you will shortly start to see councils start warning of their own impending bankruptcy because of temporary accommodation. I don't think you can say it's anything other than a crisis.
The number of homeless families in North Devon has gone up by more than a third in the last year. But more than that, it's the length of time they're homeless. Temporary accommodation lasts 1, 2, even 3 years.
It's really hard work. You know, you get some of them are shouting and screaming, you get others that are crying, you get threats of people going to do, bad stuff themselves. On a weekly basis, something like that will happen.
It's a logjam, and it's why Aaron's team are doing everything they can to help stop homelessness.
We negotiate with landlords, social housing providers. We've got a good working relationship with a lot of the estate agents in town. He'll be paying off as much as he can afford, and what we'll do is, once he's made a payment, I'll arrange to clear it down to below £500 at least anyway, and then he'll carry on with the payment plan once he moves, You can do everything you can to give them a positive outcome as quickly as you can, but you can only work within the constraints of what you've got available to you.
8 a.m. back in Weymouth, and Katie is finally saying goodbye to her home. Supported by Mum Pauline, she's trying to prepare for a day that is filled with uncertainty.
As I understand it, I haven't seen it yet, it's a double room and a single room. They suggested to me that the boys have a room each and I sleep on a sofa, but I don't have a sofa or a bed. Until I see it, I don't even know if a bed will fit in the living area or what, so I'll need to make those decisions later today. Right, so we literally just need to grab bags and...
Yep, you're right.
Yeah. Oh. You're right. Oh dear. Is your contact lens still in? Yeah.
The council are putting her up in emergency accommodation on the other side of town. The view from the children's windows directly overlooks a sex shop. The stay in this 2-bed flat should only last a few weeks, but Kate is preparing for the stay to last at least a year. It's a nervous wait for the housing officer and the first look inside the place she will have to live.
Morning, morning.
As if the day couldn't get any worse, the key to the front door isn't working.
Can't get in. Oh, there he is.
Oh, brilliant.
Once inside, it's finally time to start to piece her life back together again. They have a roof over their heads, but there are restrictions.
So I'm not allowed overnight visitors here. I have to spend every night here. And I'm not allowed to drink alcohol here. So my weekend glass of wine has gone out the window. I mean, honestly, when I read it, I was like, I feel like I'm being like a prisoner being released on licence with all the conditions that they're given. But at the end of the day, I'm housed, and that's what, that's the important bit, isn't it?
Last time I saw Michaela, Callis and Aurora in North London, they feared they may have to spend a night on the street. Since then, it's been back to hotels. But today, things are really beginning to look different.
Morning. How you doing? Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. How are you, Callis? You okay?
Not long after their stay on the street, the council gave Michaela a choice. Accept a 3-bed house, or the council would discharge its duty to house them. Hardly a choice at all.
Hello, Aurora. How you doing? Another travel lodge. Last one, maybe, hopefully. This is the most happy I've seen you in the whole time I've been with you.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we met like 5-6 months ago to now. It's like a different Michaela.
Yeah.
Does it feel like that?
Yeah, it does.
It's the first time you've not been in a hotel since when? February?
I've been to 1, 2, 3, 4 different hotels.
Yeah.
I said it's going to be like a mansion to Aurora. She's been brought up in one room, and now she's got a 3-bedroom house.
Here we go. One last time.
That's it now. That's the end of hotels.
That's my mum's window.
Stiff door.
Yeah.
You can smell the fresh paint.
Yeah.
That's good size. It's all right, isn't it? Happy?
Yeah, really happy.
But rent here isn't cheap. It's around £1,500 per month, just about covered by her wages and housing benefit.
So they just rang you and said, take it or leave it, and then you had to say yes without even seeing it? Yeah.
But it's nice to have what feels like a mansion now. Having a roof over your head is just a basic need, but also to have it clean and safe when you've come from being in a hotel.
As happy as you're going to be Christmas Day and Boxing Day and over Christmas and all that, will there be a part of you, a small part of you thinking about those families aren't going to be?
100%. Yeah. I just got chills when you said that, actually. Well, they're going to be on their own.
Upstairs, there's a moment to reflect on what having so much space to live in will mean for the family.
I know how much you love your kids, and I know how much you've tried to protect them from this. But for you now to have this, like, you've got your own room, got your own space, that must be a big deal for you.
Yeah, it's nice, because, I mean, like you say, we all love our kids, but we're entitled to have our own room as a parent and our own space.
Yeah.
But even more for the kids, They don't want to share a room with their mum.
Yeah. You could just see the relief on Michaela's face. I haven't seen her that happy since we've been spending time with her. The place is still temporary that she's going to. It's not a hotel, it's a house, it's safe, it's clean, but it is still temporary. She has no idea how long she'll be there for. But for now, she'll be there for Christmas, and that's enough for Michaela.
In response to the programme, a government spokesperson said,
"Councils must ensure temporary accommodation is suitable for anyone who lives there. Our long-term plan for housing and our multi-billion-pound programme to build thousands of new affordable homes will also see a large number for social rent. We are also launching a third round of the Local Authority Housing Fund and increasing the local housing allowance so that 1.6 million low-income households will be around £800 better off on average next year."
A spokesperson for Michaela's local council, Enfield, said,
"The collapse of the private rented sector combined with Enfield facing the highest rate of no-fault evictions has meant a record number of families are turning to us for help, forcing us to use emergency accommodation, causing huge financial pressure for local authorities. We continue to ask the government for a long-term solution to increase the supply of affordable housing. The uplift to the local housing allowance will not kick in until spring 2024, leaving hundreds of families with a very uncertain winter ahead. In addition, this limited help will not make a dent in the acute lack of housing."
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know.
For the 105,000 households trapped in temporary accommodation, this Christmas is a season of uncertainty and instability. And hope, like housing, is in short supply. Their wish for a place to call home is one most people take for granted. But how many others are one eviction notice, or even a single pay packet away from homelessness?